The Tennessee Titans might be out on Rueben Bain at number 4, and if that's the case, it sets up a showdown on offense for the Tennessee Titans top pick. I'll give you all the latest draft news on today's edition of Locked On Titans.
You are Locked On Titans, your daily Tennessee Titans podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the Locked On Titans podcast. I am your host, Tyler Rowland. Titans fans, on today's show, we are going to break down all of the latest Tennessee Titans draft news, adjacent rumors, all the stuff that you need to know with the draft getting very, very close. The Tennessee Titans might be off of the Rueben Bain train. I would be very sad to hear it, but in reality, it does make sense. Also, if the Tennessee Titans are off Rueben Bain, where could they go? It sounds like, according to other reports, two options on the offensive side of the ball, Carnell Tate versus Jeremiyah Love. Before we dive into all of it, I do want to thank you for making Locked On Titans your first listen each and every day. Remember, Monday through Friday, Tennessee Titans content all year round, always for free. Make sure that you get subscribed, stay subscribed. It's your team every day. Speaking of every day, shout out to my everydayers out there tuning in Monday through Friday. Couldn't do it without you guys. If you aren't an everydayer, now is the time to be one. The draft is so close. We're going through all the prospects, breaking down all the options, doing mock drafts. Make sure that you stay locked in with the number one Tennessee Titans podcast in the world, Locked On Titans. But with that being said, again, the Tennessee Titans are out on Rueben Bain. That's what Daniel Jeremiah, one of the leading NFL draft analysts in the NFL, had to say recently on Mina Kimes' podcast. He said, I apologize, it was the Peter Schrager Hour podcast. But Daniel Jeremiah said this about Rueben Bain and the Tennessee Titans. He said, quote, "Stuff that I've got out of Tennessee is I don't think they are a huge Bain team. We'll see how accurate that ends up being, but I was told that is not their guy," end quote. Now, that would make me very frustrated. I would be very sad to hear that the Tennessee Titans are off Rueben Bain. I love Rueben Bain. Rueben Bain would be, I like Arvell Reese, number 1, and then Rueben Bain after that. That would be my draft board for the Titans. Arvell Reese, Rueben Bain, David Bailey, Jeremiyah Love, Carnell Tate. That would be my list right there if they can't trade back. But it doesn't sound like the Tennessee Titans are on Bain. Now, it's smokescreen season. It's getting closer to the draft. Take everything with a grain of salt. Don't believe everything you hear. But I got to tell you again, I think this does make sense. And I have been saying, despite having Rueben Bain where I have him on my board, I have been saying throughout that I think the Titans like David Bailey. I have been saying that throughout the entire process. It's not about my rankings. I am not as high on David Bailey as a lot of other people are. I do not think that he's the number 1 edge rusher in the class. But I think because he's a speed rusher, a wide guy with long arms, he is more what Robert Saleh wants at his speed rusher defensive end, and he fits the scheme better, and that's the issue with Rueben Bain. And why I've thought, even though I like Rueben Bain better, that I don't think he's a clean fit for the Titans. And this is despite Robert Saleh saying that, his tape is undeniable at the combine. Think about the reality here. What do the Titans need on the defensive line right now? They need, again, a speed rusher, a wide 9 speed rusher. Robert Saleh has historically liked long arms for his defensive linemen. Well, Rueben Bain, despite what you think about him as a player, whether you think Rueben Bain is overrated, whether you think Rueben Bain is awesome, and I think Rueben Bain is awesome, he is not a typical wide speed rusher. He's a physical power rusher who's violent, uses his hands, and whether you want to like it or not, whether you think it's a good or bad thing, he's probably going to be at his best in the NFL, not only rushing outside, but also being able to kick inside. And when you have Jeffrey Simmons, you have John Franklin Myers, maybe a guy like Femi Oladejo, you have Solomon Thomas, who you brought in. You have a lot of guys who can rush from the interior. So would Rueben Bain get maximum value in Robert Saleh's defensive scheme, knowing that he won't have as many opportunities to rush from the interior? And he'll be asked more to be because you have Jermaine Johnson and Femi Oladipo, who have good linear burst to get off the line of scrimmage, but they are long arm, motor, cleanup sack type guys. They aren't the speed wide guy who needs to win quickly right off the snap. Now, I think Bain can do that, but again, are you getting max value out of that guy knowing that he would be at his best in a versatile role, not the role that you necessarily need? Again, I would still take Rueben Bain. I'm just trying to be honest here about the situation and why I thought that the Titans wouldn't take Rueben Bain over other options. So that's the scheme part of it and the fit on the defensive line and how clean or unclean it is. And then again, the arm length is, there hasn't been a guy since 1999 drafted as high as, or in the first round, I believe it is. 20 plus years since you've had a guy with his arm length have 12 sacks in an NFL season. And Robert Saleh historically, despite all of that, or with all of that, Robert Saleh historically likes long arms. So whether it's scheme, whether it's arm length, those are just not going in Rueben Bain's direction for the Tennessee Titans. So, I mean, you can't ignore that. You can't, despite where I have Rueben Bain, again, the powerful hands, the bend at his size, the football character where all he wants to do is play football. He's not worried about anything else. He can be a leader, and Cam loves him. Again, he would be, the other thing that we're hearing here that turns the conversation forward is the Titans may actually have to pass on Rueben Bain because Arvell Reese and David Bailey are probably going to go 2 and 3. And I think the Tennessee Titans would take both of those players over Jeremiyah Love and over Rueben Bain. I think Reese and Bailey are the top on the Titans board, and they're not going to have a chance to take them. But with that, if Reese and Bailey are gone and they aren't a Rueben Bain team and the Titans aren't going to take Rueben Bain, where does that leave them? Well, it leaves them on Love Island. But a challenger, according to another report from Todd McShay, another leading draft analyst, a challenger may have just emerged in Carnell Tate. Do want to let you know that today's episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. Financial stress. It's something a lot of people are carrying right now, and it's not just about numbers. It can affect your sleep, your relationships, your overall mental health in ways that really build up over time. And the reality is, struggling with money doesn't mean that you failed. Sometimes it just means you haven't had the right kind of support. It's something that I've thought about, how easy it is to put pressure on yourself financially without really talking about it. The stress that comes with trying to figure everything out on your own and the expectations that you have to feel like everything is together and how that pressure can spill into other areas of life. With over 30,000 therapists and more than 6 million people served, BetterHelp makes it easier to get matched and start focusing on what you need to overcome when life feels overwhelming. Therapy can help. Sign up and get 10% off at BetterHelp.com/lockedon. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedon. Titans fans, let's continue today's bonus edition of the Locked On Titans podcast. Again, we heard the Daniel Jeremiah quote that the Titans are not a Rueben Bain team. You got to take everything with a grain of salt, but I got to be honest, based on what we know, what I've thought throughout the process, and hearing that from Daniel Jeremiah, I do believe that the Titans are not high on Rueben Bain early in the draft. But if they're not high on Bain and Reese and Bailey are off the board, who I think the Titans would select if either were available, where does that leave us? And of course, as a lot of you like to hear, want to hear, and are pining for, it leaves us with Jeremiyah Love. That's where we're at right now. I think Jeremiyah Love would be the pick. And you know what's interesting is I've seen some people who've wanted Jeremiyah Love throughout the process acting like, now that it's most likely that they're going to take Love, or always was, however you want to look at it. Now it's like, oh yeah, see, told you, it was Jeremiyah Love all along. But in my mind, it's like, I think what people are actually acknowledging in all of that is the Titans would take David Bailey over Jeremiyah Love. The Titans would take Arvell Reese over Jeremiyah Love if they could. But they're just not going to be available. So then the Titans are going to have to go to something else. And if they don't like Rueben Bain, then it's probably going to be Jeremiyah Love, who's probably the best player on their board at this time. And I agree with that thought process. Like, I'm fine with taking Jeremiyah Love. I've liked that idea all along. But, I don't think that the Titans would take Jeremiyah Love if they had the second pick. And I think that is what some people are acknowledging now while acting like it's a win for Jeremiyah Love. And I guess I don't know if I agree with that logic. You know what I mean? It's just kind of admitting that the Titans don't have Jeremiyah Love as the best player on their board, but maybe they do. And if they do, and they get him at 4 with the edge rushers going off in front of him, then what an absolute home run for the Titans. But quite frankly, I think it's a home run for the Titans no matter what. Whether you get one of the edge rushers that you really covet, which is the direction I would go, whether you get Jeremiyah Love, which I would be happy with, whether you get a trade down because there's a bunch of teams behind you that could be interested in trading down, especially if Arizona stands still. If Arizona doesn't get a trade, I think that there's going to be a trade for the Titans. Because you look at the Commanders, the Saints are always trading up. They're a trade-up team. They're always aggressive moving up in the draft, making moves. They're not afraid to make moves. Mickey Loomis. The Chiefs have 2 first-round picks, so they have more capital than most people. That gives them the ability to be aggressive if they want, and we've already heard reports that they're snooping around. Then, the Bengals aren't going to make any kind of move. But the Dolphins have some of the most draft picks in the entire NFL draft. After they've traded for Waddle and everything, they have their own 2 first-round picks. The Dolphins could get aggressive and go up and get somebody. You have the Cowboys right after that with 2 first-round picks of their own. At number 14, you have the Ravens, who are always aggressive, and we're hearing reports that they're looking to move up potentially. Then you have the Jets at 16, who have a bunch of draft capital over the next couple of years and could absolutely make a move up a la the Houston Texans to get 2 top 5 picks in the same draft and get 2 guys that they really like. So if the Arizona Cardinals don't make a trade at 3 because somebody wants to get one of Arvell Reese and David Bailey, who I think are generally speaking, are the real crowns of this draft. You know Fernando Mendoza is there, but if you're going to get a really, really great player who they think can be elite in a premium position, I think most people only see that in Arvell Reese and David Bailey. So the odds are that the Cardinals will get that trade. I think it's much more likely that the Cardinals get the trade than the Titans do. But if they don't, the Titans are in a prime spot to move down with what could be a couple of different suitors to drive the price up, which could be great. And let's hope that the Cardinals take Malinois. You know what I mean? Like, let's hope they go offensive line. If the Cardinals go offensive line, we're in here. But I don't think they want to go offensive line, which is why they're trying to trade down so aggressively, because none of the offensive linemen really have good value there. Like, I'd rather have Monroe Freeling or Spencer Fano at 12 than to take Malinois at 3 or at 6 or something like that. You know what I mean? So it's probably going to be Jeremiyah Love there. If it does go Bailey, Reese, Bailey. It probably needs to be Jeremiyah Love. And if they are truly off, my pick would be Rueben Bain. But if they are truly off of Rueben Bain at that point, then my pick would be Jeremiyah Love. That would be my selection. If you're telling me they're not going to take Bain. So get over it. You know, eat your vegetables, shut up, and pick somebody else. It's like when you're trying to pick restaurants, you know, and the restaurant that you want to go to is the restaurant that the other person says, we're not going. I don't want that. I'm not interested in that one. All right, well, if I can't have the one that I really want, what would I do next? And that's Jeremiyah Love. And that will also make a lot of Titans fans happy who have Jeremiyah Love as, you know, the love nuts, as I've grown to call you guys, the guys who Jeremiyah Love or bust. No one else will make you happy. Based on what we're seeing and how the board's stacking up right now, about, 15, 16 days from the draft, it's looking like the Titans will logically take Jeremiyah Love and not have to pass on anybody else that would really be an option. Now, the only other option that I think realistically should be considered. I don't believe Sonny Styles. I don't believe Caleb Downs. I don't believe you take either of the cornerbacks that high. I'm not going with one of the offensive linemen. The only other realistic option I think you can consider at that point is Carnell Tate. Now, I like Jordan Tyson better than Carnell Tate. I'd take Tyson. But, again, this is like the Rueben Bain thing. The arm length threshold. The injury threshold. I do not believe that the Tennessee Titans will take Jordan Tyson with the injury concerns. So, Carnell Tate, I think, is the guy who, it's Jeremiyah Love or it's Carnell Tate. That would be the decision for the Tennessee Titans if the board goes as we expect and we believe the report, which you don't have to. You don't have to believe the report that the Titans are off on Rueben Bain. You don't have to believe that. You could say Daniel Jeremiah is an idiot. He doesn't know anything. He's a liar. And that's your prerogative. And that's what we all get to do right now, right? Because you're going to hear report here. Adam Schefter says the Titans don't like Jeremiyah Love. Do I believe that? Do I not? Daniel Jeremiah says the Titans are off Rueben Bain. Do I believe that or not? Who was it that said earlier? I hear it was, Louis Riddick said, I hear the Tennessee Titans have Jeremiyah Love as the best player on their board. You get to believe who you want right now. I get to believe who I want right now. That's the way that's how life works, right? You hear all this different information. It all conflicts all the time. This is good for you, but actually it's not. And drink diet, but don't because the other thing, the artificial is, you won't. You're going to die. You're going to die. Everything's going to kill you. Nothing's good for you. Heck, if you eat enough vegetables, then you could, have this digestive problem. But there's no end in sight. Every sword has two edges. So at the end of the day, the Titans have the decision to make there where are they going to do this? Are they going to do that? And all the reports that we hear along the way, we get to decide whether we believe them or not. I do believe that the Titans are a team that would not have Rueben Bain as high. I do not believe that the Tennessee Titans are out on Jeremiyah Love, but I do believe that they would rather pick somebody else other than him. So if they would consider somebody else, it would have to be Carnell Tate at that point. And another report here from Todd McShay, another high-ranking, high-regarded draft analyst. I would say that, Daniel Jeremiah, Mel Kiper, Todd McShay, Dane Brugler. I would put like a Jordan Reed in there from ESPN, Emory Hunt, Damian Parsons, Keith Sanchez. Those are guys that, James Foster, all guys that I think are excellent. But, we're talking about the guys who are the highest regarded draft experts. It's Daniel Jeremiah, Bucky Brooks, Mel Kiper, Todd McShay. Those are like the guys people know the best. So whether you want to believe them or not, those are people that get listened to. And Todd McShay said on his podcast recently, don't be surprised if Sonny Styles and Carnell Tate go top 5, based on my conversations with people in the league. Now, it's a segment called Don't Be Surprised, so he's kind of, saying things, I guess, that are bolder takes than normal. But if it's not a shock that Carnell Tate would go in the top 5 and Sonny Styles would go in the top 5, well, who's taking Sonny Styles and Carnell Tate? Because if Arvell Reese and David Bailey are going 2 and 3, and we know Mendoza are going 1, for Tate and Styles to be in the top 5, that would mean the Titans and the Giants. Now, I've seen Sonny Styles connected to the Giants quite a bit. Sonny Styles to the Titans, not as connected, but Carnell Tate is very believable. Now, you guys know, again, I like Jordan Tyson better. I would not be over the moon about Carnell Tate at number 4. I think that's a bit of a reach for the limit of player that he is. But if I had to choose, again, if you came to me and you said they don't want to take Love, they don't want running back that high, Reese and Bailey were their top 2 players. They're both off the board. They don't want Rueben Bain. And I'm choosing between Sonny Styles and Carnell Tate. I'm taking Carnell Tate every single time. I had talked about why I'm out on Sonny Styles. Now, I'm not high on Carnell Tate at number 4, but if my options are Styles and Tate, I'm taking Carnell Tate. We need to support Cam Ward. Carnell Tate's skill set can help Cam Ward's biggest issue. Carnell Tate is a good player. I think that he's got low risk. He's not going to be a bust. It's a premium position, and it's a skill set, again, that the Titans don't have on the team right now. So if they're out on Rueben Bain, which is what Daniel Jeremiyah is saying, and Reese and Bailey are off the board, then I think it would be a conversation of Jeremiyah Love versus Carnell Tate, and that's what the Titans would come down to. I know that most of you would say Jeremiyah Love. I would say Jeremiyah Love. But I would not be shocked if the Titans actually said Carnell Tate. Now, we would all love a trade down in that scenario. I would love a trade down, in my opinion, because I think if somebody trades up, if it goes Mendoza, Bailey, Reese, and someone actually wants to trade up to 4, which I don't see happening because someone traded up to 3 or Reese and Bailey off the board, there won't be as much appetite for a trade. But if someone did trade up, it would probably be to get Sonny Styles or the number 1 offensive lineman or Caleb Downs. One of those like guys who are considered premium guys at non-premium positions for a team that feels very comfortable with their draft capital, that can move up and afford to do that, that needs that position greatly. And then the Titans can move back a little bit. Maybe they get Jeremiyah Love at 7 still after a trade back because the Commanders come up to get Sonny Styles. Wouldn't that be elite? What if Borgonzi got a trade back and got Jeremiyah Love? Titans fans would build a statue of this man if the Titans were able to do that. But with that being said, I'm going to take some questions from the chat, do a little bit of a live YouTube mailbag here to cap off a bonus episode of Locked On Titans. Titans fans, let's cap off today's bonus edition of the Locked On Titans. Again, we talked about all of the latest news and rumors, the Carnell Tate top 5 stuff, the Rueben Bain Titan stuff. So much to discuss, so much going to happen over the next few weeks. Again, make sure that you stay locked in with the Locked On Titans podcast. But with that being said, again, questions in the mailbag. Had a great, if you guys aren't watching or listening to the squad shows, with me, Brad Hopkins, Julian Minnesone. They added Kayla Anderson into the Friday shows, all of that. You guys got to check those out. They're excellent episodes. We love taking questions from you guys there as well. So check those squad shows out. They're a great time. But with that being said, question here. How would you pick on day 2 if we took Love? Well, I think that's a great question. And I'll be honest with you. Taking Jeremiyah Love makes it as that's the most difficult path I have found to, hitting all the things that I want to hit and getting the value that I want to get. Getting Jeremiyah Love in the first round makes it more difficult. But I think when you get to 35, if they stick and pick at number 4 and they take 35, you get to 35, you'll probably have, I don't think that any of the good wide receivers, the sensational 6, as I call them, the top tier wide receivers, I don't think any of them are going to be available. Denzel Boston, KC Concepcion, Omar Cooper, Mekhi Lemon, Carnell Tate, Jordan Tyson. I don't think any of them will be there at 35. If they are, you take one of them. I think that's pretty clear. Edge rusher will be interesting because Zion Young, Malachi Lawrence. What if TJ Parker falls a little bit? Keldrick Folk has been slipping in a lot of mock drafts lately. What if he's there? And the Titans are just like, hey, this guy may not be a clean fit. Zion Young, power rusher. TJ Parker didn't really put together a move set. He's not a quick win edge right now. Keldrick Folk is like a Danico Autry style guy. I don't know if he has the speed to be that outside wide rusher, even though he is kind of like Mikael Williams, who the 49ers took last year. So maybe that would interest. I don't know if those edges are going to be there. I don't know that I would take Zion Young that high. I know a lot of people are high on him. Will probably go first round, but I don't know if I would. So do you take a Cassius Howell there? Do you take a Joshua Josephs? Do you take A Romello Height? Like, no, you don't do that at 35. Cassius Howe, maybe. I don't mind Cassius Howe, but again, the arms. Robert Saleh doesn't want guys with super short arms, and Cassius Howe's arms are even shorter than Rueben Bain's. They're the third smallest or shortest arm length in the draft since 1999. Where Bain is fourth, Howe is third. So how can they do that? They can't do that. And that brings me to offensive line. Because I think if Emmanuel Pregnon's there, if Keelan Rutledge is there, I'm not as high on Chase Basantis, but the rest of the NFL could be. If one of these tackles falls, Caleb Lumu, Blake Miller, Maxey and Accor, if one of those guys fall, I think that would be a really good place to go on day 2. I just don't see linebacker. I'm not taking Jacob Rodriguez right there. I'm not taking Jake Galde at 35. I think the value in this draft is going to line up with offensive line having value at 35. I think the offensive line might fall back a little bit. It's going to be that, or it's going to be cornerbacks. And I think offensive line is more advantageous for the Titans than cornerback at this point with the cornerbacks that'll be there. I will say this, though. Wide receiver, I don't know about Chris Brazzell at 35. I don't know. Chris Bell, Jeremy Bernard's too high. Zachariah Branch doesn't fit. They can't take Branch. I like Branch, but I just don't think he's a fit. So I can't go to the next tier of wide receivers at 35. I can't do it, It just doesn't work for me. But here we go. Are we set at center? Absolutely not. I think they're going to take a center in their top 4 or 5 picks. Pick 101 to me is the bottom for them picking a center. They're going to pick a center by pick 101. I think pick 66, pick 101, we're definitely going to get a center because it lines up with... I'm going to talk about centers later on tonight. Finally, we're going to get to centers. There's just so much going on. But there are like 9 centers who I think could start day 1 for the Titans, who I would be comfortable with them having. Do you believe the Titans would trade back into the first round and get their edge rusher? Absolutely not. I do not see wide receiver is what they would trade back in for, I think, or offensive line. It would be like a Vega Ione or, if Spencer Fano or Monroe Freeling were falling into the mid-20s, then they would go up maybe and do that. But I just don't see that. The Titans want more picks in the top 100, not less. So I don't buy that. Trading down at 35 should be priority number 1. I guess so. I think so. It depends on who's there. Because Emmanuel Pregnon, I'm taking him. If Denzel Boston falls, Omar Cooper falls, I'm taking him. If Colton Hood is there, I'd probably take him. If Malachi Lawrence is there, I'd probably take him. And I would have to look at a full list to, be for sure. But, there are a lot of guys who I call it my can't pass options at pick number 35, just like I had last year. It depends on how it goes. I could see it. If any of the sensational 6 are gone by number 35, do you see a point draft in wide receiver with Wandale Chim, All-Pro, Nod, X is really our position of need? Yeah, and that's exactly where I don't see any of the wide receivers being worth it at 35 outside of the sensational 6. So I wouldn't do that. Do you think we should Tate because people said every Ohio State player's really good, always go in the first round? Yeah, but a lot of the Ohio State wide receivers that you talk about that are good didn't go super high. Like Emeka Egbuka, Jackson Smith and Jigba, Terry McLaurin was a 3rd rounder. So it's like, yeah, Ohio State wide receivers are always good for where they're drafted, but not all of them went super high. I mean, Garrett Wilson went super high. Marvin Harrison Jr. went super high. Chris Olave went medium range, So it's like, I don't think you have to take every Ohio State wide receiver top 5 because they're Ohio State wide receivers. Jeremiah Smith is going to be absolutely worth that. But, I mean, again, if they go Tate with the options that are going to be available as what we understand, you can't be super mad. Can't be super mad. What positions could we improve if we trade the pick? Well, it's just about the math. You know, the Titans need a wide receiver. They need an edge. They need an interior offensive lineman. They could use Jeremiyah Love. You know, they could use another cornerback. So trading down just helps them attack multiple of those positions. Should we trade Spears or trade for Jordan Mason? I'm not trading for any backup running back players. Absolutely not. And just keep Tajay Spears. It's the last year of his deal. Is it a double takedown possible, or would it be good for us to drop back that far? I think you mean trade up. And no, they just can't. Logan Jones you cannot take Logan Jones at 35. That's crazy, man. I like Logan Jones. I hope they draft Logan Jones. But at 35, that's crazy. He is not athletic enough, not big enough. Good, smart player, consistent, but you cannot take him that high. That's way too high. Do you think we could, Denzel Boston, do you think we could pick him at 35? Yeah, whether they take Bailey, whether they take Reese, whether they take Love, I think Denzel Boston would be a great pick at 35. Absolutely great pick. Terrell Wells, I still think Sonny Styles is the absolute best player to pick. That's fair. Elite athletic testing, could be a sensational player over the middle, transform a defense. Like I said, Robert Saleh's great at getting great stuff out of mid-round, late-round linebackers. Linebacker, to me, is like the running back of offense, where it's more dependent on the D-line than it is the linebacker themselves. They have Cedric Gray there. Sonny Styles isn't a violent downhill linebacker the way that Robert Saleh really likes. I see some reasons where I don't see the fit with Sonny Styles, but I'm not going to act like, you're crazy for thinking that way. Will we end up cutting Levis? I think they'll trade Levis. They'll get something, whether it's a 6th, the conditional 7th that turns into a 6th. They'll get something before they cut him for no reason at all. Well, not no reason, but they just cut him for nothing. I think we could get a 5th-round pick for Will Levis with the right suitor. Yeah, I think a conditional 6th-round pick that turns into a 5th-round pick if he were to start 8 games or something like that, put some conditions on it. I think that would make a ton of sense. Trade down, not up. Sorry. Oh, yeah. Then, yeah, I think trading down would be a great choice for the Titans in the first round. Definitely going with Denzel Boston at 35. Yeah, I would too. That would be great. He's a great linebacker coach. We have some talent in the Sam Will spot with Gray Williams. Yeah, they do need a young Mike linebacker. I agree with you. That is what they're missing. But I just don't know if you want to fill that spot at number 4. Linebacker is something that I haven't taken very seriously in my mock drafts for the reasons that I've kind of laid out. And that's one where I'm like, oh, I could be wrong about that. I could be wrong, and the Titans could want to go after linebacker much earlier than I'm giving them credit for. Any current free agents, I think we should still, get Kevin Zeitler back. Because if you get Kevin Zeitler back, then you don't have to worry about guard in the draft this year. You can take a center with one of your 66 or 101, and then you can feel pretty good about your offensive line going into next year. Off topic, this will be my last one. I'll talk, how do you think Malik does in Miami? I do not think that Malik Willis is a consistent starting quarterback in the NFL. I think he's a very good backup, but I will say this, Malik Willis has proven me wrong at basically every single turn throughout his entire career. So if there's anybody who's going to be wrong about what Malik Willis can do, it's going to be me. So good luck to Malik. I'd like to see him work out. He's kind of one of those things where it doesn't make me feel bad that he's not working out for the Titans because I'm so happy with Cam Ward. So good luck to Malik Willis. I hope he does well, but boy, the Dolphins have put him in a tough situation. With that being said, though, that is going to do it for me today on today's bonus episode. As always, I am your host, Tyler Rowland, and this was Locked On Titans.